Alright, today we're going to go over lesson 61, but before I do, I want to show you some cool stuff we made in class. We made some crystals. See, there's a dark red one. And this one is my favorite because it's the biggest. Here's a blue one. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but right here, the crystal it has a purplish hue to it. So I thought that was really cool. And then this little white one is awesome. It's hard to see against the black backboard. Let's see if you can see it against my shirt. But I told the kids if they touched it, it would send them to another dimension. So let's see if that works. It did. It sent me to another dimension. But somehow my voice is extrapolated back to this dimension. So let me touch it again so I can come back. I'm back. That was really cool. You guys should try that on your own sometime. Obviously, that's some silly video editing. But anyway, alright, let's go ahead and go over lesson 61. So lesson 61 is adding 3 or more fractions. So before we do this, you got to know how to find the least common multiple. Okay, so if you're going to see the problem like this, written in your book, you should not try to solve the problem like this. You should write it up and down. What do I mean by that? Let me demonstrate. You're going to take 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8. And you're going to add it all up. Okay? Write the fractions one over the other. Now, before you do that, you need to know your multiples of 2, 4, and 8. Okay? So I'm going to erase this, get this out of the way so we can write our multiples. So the denominator is 2, 4, and 8. So you want to find a common denominator. I'm going to find a common denominator over here. So I'm going to write some fraction bars. I'm going to write a whole line. Okay? You cannot add these fractions until you find a common denominator. 1/2 plus a 1/4, you can't add them. You've got to find a common denominator. So in order to find a common denominator, you have to know your multiples, like I just said. So the multiples of 2, the multiples of 4, and the multiples of 8. Okay? 2, 4, 6. Oh, cool. 24 would be a common multiple for 4 and 8, right? 24 and 24. But up here, oh, well, that would be a common multiple for 2 as well. But that's not the least common multiple. So let's go to a smaller one. 16. 16 is a smaller multiple, but there's one that's even. We want the least common multiple. They call it the LCM. And in this case, it's going to be 8. Because 8 is a multiple of all 3 numbers, and it's the smallest number that it's the smallest multiple that each number has in common. So 8 is going to be our common denominator. Okay? Then you do this whole thing. Let me do this in a different color. Hopefully this works. They say purple looks best on whiteboards, so let's see. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, 2 times what number equals 8? And of course that is 4. If I multiply the bottom by 4, I'm going to have to multiply the top by 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, 1 times 4 is 4. So 4/8 equals, I like doing this in blue, 4/8 equals 1/2. Okay? Then you have to ask yourself, 4 times what number equals 8? Well, 4 times 2 equals 8. So if I multiply the bottom by 2, then I'm going to have to multiply the top by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. There's that one. And then this one, we already have the common denominator, so you don't have to do this intermediate step I did in purple here. This is a little trick. If you already have the common denominator, you just rewrite the number as it is, because you already have a common denominator. So 8. Now we have a common denominator. Now we can add. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So your answer is going to be 7/8. Here's a little bit of a different problem. We have 1/2 instead of plus 1/4. We have plus 3/4. Okay, that's going to change our answer over here to a mixed number. Okay? So we already know, as we rewrite our problem to the right over here, we already know that our common denominator is going to be 8 because of we did the LCMs up here. We have 2, 4, and 8. We can't add them, so we got to find a common denominator. The common denominator is going to be 8. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There goes my sound effects. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. 2 times what number is 8? Well, 2 times 4. If you do it to the top, you got to do it to the bottom. 4 times what is 8? Well, that of course is going to be 2. If you do it to the top, you got to do it to the bottom. Okay, so these are going to be 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. And then you just rewrite that one. Now, when you add these up, you're going to have 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 1 is 11. You're going to have 11/8. Okay? In this situation, you have an improper fraction. And you're going to use our little saying that we have written up here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's top divided by bottom. So I'm going to take top, which is 11, divide that by bottom, which is 8. 8 will go into 11 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract. 11 minus 8 is 3. And we're going to do it in the fraction form, since we're doing fractions. And your remainder goes on top. Your divisor goes on bottom. And you're going to have 1 and 3/8. So 11 is going to be equal to 1 and 3/8. All right, this is homework. If you watch this, cool, you're getting a free homework problem. This is number 6 on your homework. So we have 3 fractions, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, all with different denominators, and so we're going to find a common denominator for all of those. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so I'm seeing that the common multiple is going to be 12. Okay, is there anything smaller than 12? This common, well, we have 6 and 6, but that's not a multiple for 4. Okay, so we're going to go with 12 is our least common multiple. So let's rewrite our fractions over here. Fraction bar, fraction bar, fraction bar, whole line. 12 will be our common multiple, our common denominator. Okay, so let's do the little intermediate purple step, as I call it. Okay, what number times 4 is 12? Well, that of course is 3. You multiply the bottom by 3, you got to multiply the top by 3. 3 times what number is 12? Well, of course, that is going to be 4. 2 times what number is 12? Well, that of course is going to be 6. Okay, I'm going to erase the multiples up here because it's getting a little too jumbled. Don't need those anymore. Now I can multiply across and find my numerators. 1 times 6 is 6. 6 12ths equals 1/2. That works. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 12ths equals 1/3. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. Don't forget your whole numbers. 1, 2, 3. Now we have a common denominator, and I can add these up. 6 plus 4 is 10. Plus 3 is going to be 13 twelfths. You're not done. You've got to add your whole numbers. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6. Now we have an improper fraction here. Okay, so you're going to do top divided by bottom, just for this over here. We're going to do 13 divided by 12. 12 will go into 13 one time. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract. 13 minus 12 is 1. So you're going to have 1 and a 12. Okay, so basically 13 twelfths is the same as adding 1 and 1 12th. And 6 plus 1 is 7, so you're going to have 7 and 1 12th. That will be your answer. Okay, I lied. I wanted to do one more problem, number 18, and it says the perimeter of a square is 1 foot. That means if I add this side plus this side plus this side plus this side, the perimeter is going to be equal to 1 foot. Okay? Well, but the question is asking for something in inches. So 1 foot we know is equal to 12 inches. So we have 4 lengths, equal lengths, okay? So I'm going to take this 12 and I'm going to divide it into 4 by 4 to find out how long each side is. Okay, so 12 divided by 4, and that will be the length of a side. So I'll say side length. Side is going to be 12 divided by 4, which is, of course, 3 inches. So each side is 3 inches. Then it asks you for the area of this. And you know the area is equal to length times width. So we're going to take 3 times 3. So your area is going to be 9 inches squared. That's your answer. So what's happening in between each term? Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what has happened in between 100 and 10? 100, something has happened in order to get 10. So what has happened? Well, you could subtract 90. That could be your pattern. Let's see if that continues. So let's use the next two terms. It'd be 10. What has happened in order to get 1? Well, does that pattern continue? Can you subtract 90 again to get 1? And so that is incorrect. So our pattern is not to subtract 90. The only other thing to start with a big number and to get a small number is to divide something. Okay? So let's see, what can we divide 100 by to get 10? Well, what's 100 divided by? Of course, that'll be 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. Let's see if that continues. 10 divided by 10, well, anything divided by itself is 1. So that works. So in order to get the next thing in our pattern, we're going to start with 1. We're going to use our pattern, which is divide by 10. So if you take 1 divided by 10, that is simply 1 divided by 10. Remember, top divided by bottom. Boom. There you go. 1/10. Or 1/10.